It's the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. In the wake of currency devaluation last month in Egypt and Sri Lanka, analysts have identified Nigerian's currency, that's the Naira, as one of the currencies that may be at risk of devaluation based on the existence of parallel market premium, which is oftentimes a clear indication that currency is overvalued and suffering from foreign exchange shortage in official markets. According to analysts, while some countries like Lebanon and Afghanistan have reliably parallel market data, others like Nigeria, Ethiopia have cracked down against parallel market data providers. And there are those that do not have a reliable data services, but instead rely on anecdotal evidence to give rough approximation of parallel market exchange rate. Now, analysts believe that devaluation may be required for these currencies to contain external imbalance. And this morning, joining us is Kenny Fair, an economist. He joins the conversation. It's good to have you join us this morning.
Oh, hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Let's look at in 2015, when you had President Muhammadu Buhari, of course, he became president at the time and the vice president. Now, one of the demands for investing in economists or for some investing communities was that there was need for countries to devalue the Naira and maintain a single exchange rate system. But the president at the time strongly opposed the position, and he was famously quoted to say he will not kill the Naira. So what is different? Why are we towing the line of devaluing our Naira?
I know the revaluing or devaluing is a function of the external sector of the economy. Is pricing, is a matter of pricing, and in pricing a currency, demand and supply enter into the equation. What do I mean? The demand for your forex and the supply of your forex must have a chance of meeting somewhere for you to have some kind of equilibrium. Otherwise, that equilibrium will be shifting. But in Nigerian case, what we have is we have a supply of forex from a monocultural commodity, which is problematic because you have no control over the price of that commodity nor the volume that you can produce of that commodity, which is crude. So you are so vulnerable to global headwinds that affect the price and quantity of crude produced. So that's your supply is exogenic. Whereas the demand for your forex, which is coming from the domestic sector, is an insatiable appetite to import anything and everything. Those two have no way of meeting. They are divergent. So because they are divergent, you have to manage the floating of your currency. You can't allow the currency to float. It float is like a kite. If you cut the thread holding the kite, God knows where you may never find that kite again. So that's the problem, and you need to explain this to people. There is no meeting point in our demand and supply of forex, foreign exchange. And if I want to give you one example, over 70% of our foreign exchange comes from oil, crude oil. For the whole of last year, we normally expect NNPC to send $3 billion every month to the central bank as proceeds. They have not sent a penny. So which means that our central bank is running without 70% of the forex you would have been getting from crude. So what the NNPC did was to do a crude swap with the refiners. They give them crude and they give us back PMS, refined petroleum. And then the small change left, they subsidize and then tell the governors to go away empty-handed. So that is the situation that we are having. I mean, people don't appreciate that. So you are now expecting the central bank, from the little money that he gets from diaspora remittance, from foreign direct investment, has vaporized away. The whole of last year, we had less than $700 million compared to $2.8 billion in sometimes the lowest in the last 10 years. Foreign portfolio investment is neither here nor there. So the sources are severely limited. Now, the other one is government borrowing dollar. We are borrowing because you also need to service the debts that are denominated in dollar. as well as a little bit accreting to reserve. So that's the precarious situation that we are facing. Now, when you say devalue, that is an abstraction from reality. The reality is this. In the NAFEX window, which is the national window, import-exporters, exporters, investor window, 93% of our forex is taking place there. 93%. It's only 7% that is in the black market, BDC and the black market. So how can you throw the caution to the wind and say because you have a higher price for dollar in the BDC market, which is only 7% of our forex regime, then you should then release the grip? What are you going to do about the 93% that is settled, running around 415, 415, 418, 410? You not release it to go to fly to 557. That doesn't make economic sense, and that's not where we're going. And then if you look at equilibrium price, the equilibrium price is not going to be anywhere far away from the NAFEX window, because if one area is 7%, the other one is 93%, the equilibrium will be closer to the 93%. But because of the structural factors and all kinds of factors at play in the domestic economy, insecurity, people wanting to dollarize the economy, people anxiously looking to get dollar for whatever reason, politicians are there looking for dollar. So many people, so many hostages, importers are using dollar. So because of their demand and frivolous and speculation is very, very rife there, that is why it is changed. So even if you fix dollar, let me give you an example. If you say today we are going to float the dollar and let's have it instead of 415, let's have it at 450. The economy will, the exchange rate will stabilize, but then a month after, more pressure will come. More people will say, oh, money has come cheaper. They will come in to buy dollar. Then again, you see another distance of the BDC window away from the 450. So you now say, okay, next month, let's devalue. We go to 500. It will stay stable for 1 month. Then the pressure will come. More people will come to buy dollar, to import. More people will come to buy dollar, to save. Then the black market will walk away again to about 600. Then you say, let's move. That's how you're going to be moving until you come to 1,000 Naira to $1. Where you gonna? There's no end in sight.
All right, Mr. Ife, you've said a whole lot concerning the nation's economy. But one thing I took out of all of that, you talked about, the transaction, 93% of all the transactions being done at the I&E window, and you talked about the 7% being done with the BDCs and parallel market. So would you say not having reliable data from this parallel market might be one of the issues why we have issues when it comes to fluctuating rate of forex in Nigeria?
Well, I'm not sure how more data would be. But obviously, there's always challenges about the reliability of all data, from a developing country like ourselves. But I think you get a rough indication that you have to look at the volume of transactions. We know what we are importing, what they are using the money to import. So you see the trade figures coming in, and then you see the outgoing. So there are a reasonable chance of getting very, very high percentage of accuracy.
All right, then again, let's talk about our imports, which has seemingly been rising, over time. As of last year, it was at 58%. These are the issues that we have in balancing our trade. That's our import and our export. We're seemingly not doing enough when it comes to exporting. How do you think we can begin to, boost our export drive in Nigeria? Do we need incentives? Do we need holidays? Or what do we need to ensure that we get to export more? So by so doing, we can actually attract more forex to the country.
Well, this is precisely why the central bank has launched the new program. I think there's a new program called I think is a TP is TP 200 billion, which means that in the next 3 to 5 years, we are planning to raise $200 billion annually from non-oil export. That is the program. And there are 5 subordinate programs in that main program. The first of all, the first one is to capitalize immediately on the already exportable items where we are lacking in value addition. And one example of that is cocoa. Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire produce 72% of world cocoa, raw cocoa. But when you look at the entire cocoa value chain, we are only accounting for 7% of the value of the entire cocoa value chain. So which means that we need to increment our value addition so that we can bring in a lot of the dollars. So that is one program. Then the second program is to look at other products that can be raised to exportable status. For example, we are number one in cassava production in the world. Cassava can be used for bioethanol, dry it, and you can ship it abroad. We have ginger, we have gum arabic, we have so many others, shea butter. So we can put money there, and then we're already putting money on some of those via the Anchor Borrowers program to increase the volume of these that are being produced and then process those for export. So that is the second program. The third program is to incentivize returning of those currencies when you earn them. So the government now says, the CBN says, okay, if you bring, for each dollar you bring back to the economy, we'll give you an incentive of 65 Naira. So that's a private sector. You speak to them with incentives and they respond to incentives. Then the fourth one is to say, okay, what about the infrastructure required to export these things? So we are now looking at new seaports that are designed for export. You can't go into Apapa and want to change everything. You can't. They're too rigid, too problematic. And then you can't go to the Apapa's Lagos airport and want to change things. No, you have to look for new purpose-built shipping or cargo ports that are going to be designed for the purpose. For example, you know what we need. For food export, you need export conditioning center, you need cold chain, you need blast chillers, you need so many facilities. They're going to be there. Fresh port facilities, and then bulk is where you bring in bulk materials. So you have a special area for bulk. So all of those will have to be designed for the purpose. Customs will still come in with their people, but you have a different flow of material through these ports. The fifth one is dialogue, that we have to be speaking every 6 months with all the stakeholders to continue to gauge progress and make contributions and see that we are moving forward. And that is all the players in the export community. So those are the three major programs, five sub programs of that 200 billion CBN program.
Okay, but as we close this conversation down, I'm hoping that we'll have time that you give us your thoughts on the issue. What can the CBN do, apart from some of these issues that you have mentioned, to have a unification of the rate, the parallel market, as it were? And what is actually the risks of having the Naira being devalued, to the common man? What does he mean? Because right now we're speaking in, economic terms. What does this practically means? So if I go to the market, I'm earning a salary, what does this generally mean?
You see, if your export source is monocultural and incidentally happens to be oil, crude, devaluation will not solve any problem there, because the volume, whatever volume you produce for sale or the price at which they are being sold are determined externally, not by Nigeria. So it's the OPEC that determines that price. So there's nothing you would do that will make them change the price at which you are selling or the volume. It is only when you are producing products that are independent, not outside oil, like let's say agricultural product or machinery you are exporting, then you are in control of the price mechanism. In that way, you can say, all right, look, I want to make this our product cheaper to the importers abroad. Reduce, let's devalue the Naira. And when you devalue the Naira, those people who are importing your equipment and your products will see them cheaper. And then they will start buying more. So you are reflecting your economy, because you now have more purchases and more dollars will hit your shop because you have devalued the currency. This is what is happening to Nigeria right now. Nigeria in 2014 1 Naira was buying 3 francs CFA. We're surrounded by French countries. Now, you will be lucky if you can get 1 Naira for one CFA, franc CFA now, because of the devaluation. So it's now about 60% devalued compared to that relative people surrounding Nigeria. So when we are producing food here, which we are doing, despite the security situations, our food are cheaper to them. And those of them that are in the border area, especially in the northern frontier, they are taking our food with alacrity. You can't compete with them. Those who are processing in Lagos and Port Harcourt and down to transport the grain down costs you 100,000 naira per ton. So we can't compete with these people. So they are moving our produce across the border because it's cheaper for them. They are buying them cheaper. And we are competing with people who are prepared to pay more because our money is cheaper to them. So that's the quagmire that we are in. But if we begin to add value to these products, the equation changes. Because now, if they're importing from Nigeria, they have to pay tax. Before, they will not pay tax because raw material, according to ECOWAS Treaty. Now, you're adding value. You now fight the importation of refined produce. So we now have a new chance to actually change the economy. But we can't. And then even people who are now processing are facing higher input costs, higher petrol costs, higher power costs, higher all that. So their products are also coming into the market at a higher price, while the imported produce are also coming at
Kenny, we have to go now. One is just wondering what would happen, because at the time you had the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, saying that, the CBN, suggesting that the CBN should move the rates up. And what would happen if the rates, of course, some people are saying we have moved the rates up a couple of times. But we understand, the point, and we really appreciate the thoughts that you have, brought out here this morning on the show. Thank you so much, Kenny Fair, for being part of the show.
Thank you for having me.
And that's the size of the show for today. And we must say a very big thank you to all of you who have sat back to watch The Breakfast. Returns again tomorrow morning at 7. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching.
I am Messi Boko. If you missed out on any part of the conversation, it's all right to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel as at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.